Hi, today we are going to talk about when talking is your survival strategy and resolving talking compulsions. And so that's what the title is of this, and really what we're going to dive into. This is a really specific symptom of anxiety, also post-traumatic stress. And this one is a little interesting to treat, and I would say many therapists have a difficult time with this, and many family systems have a difficult time with this, and it can feel like you're really getting nowhere. And if you're the person with a talking compulsion, it can really feel overwhelming, out of control, exasperating, frustrating, and really hopeless. And so I want to talk about what you can do. There is a lot of hope here. There's a lot of resolution, and we actually have to treat your symptom very specific to you. And usually the strategies are very unique, but we're still working with the same mind-body system. We just have to get a little creative for you. And so let's talk about that. My name's Rachel McLeod. I'm sorry, my computer is going off with all the bubbles. And my tech challenge is Gen X, man. I don't know. But we're gonna just let that be here. But I'm Rachel McLeod. I'm a mental health therapist and emotional wellness coach, and I specialize in helping people do the brain work for resolving symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress. And so the brain has a really beautiful process for this. That process gets stopped and blocked. It can stay stopped and blocked for a lifetime, and we're not going for that. So we want to help this process get unblocked and unstopped and start moving at its optimal speed. This is an electrical process, so this is a fast thing to get running, and then the brain will finally be able to resolve the symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress that are showing up for you in your life. And this is really important because we do want the brain to resolve these symptoms. We want the brain to take over the health and wellness, and not you having to do all these behavioral, mental tricks, different strategies to avoid pitfalls. We want your brain to actually work over those pitfalls, put really beautiful ways of being in there so that your function is healthy, not impaired. The brain's responsible for this, and so we just want to give it the support it needs. So all of the work I do is getting this process unblocked. And we're really working with a different part of the brain. We're working with the survival system specifically, which is different than what we do in traditional therapies. And when this part of the brain gets the support it needs, which we give it through the body, because that's its native language, it's listening to the body to decide if we're going to fight or flight or let healing happen. So we're going to send signals through the body up so that it will come out of survival mode and stay in a processing mode. And now in this mode, this is where all the brain magic happens. This is where the brain can actually resolve symptoms and heal. And so this little warm-up talk I'm talking about is really what we're going to be using to resolve talking compulsions, and the same process I use to resolve all compulsions. And so that are rooted in processing. Some compulsions are rooted in vitamin and mineral deficiencies, and there's a couple of other roots, but there are so many that just are rooted in this processing impairment. So that's what I'm going to cover, and that's what I mostly see, probably because of what I do. However, so anyway, I do want you to know that I do teach interventions for this, and they're weird and different, and they're working because they work with this different part of the brain. They are not talking and thinking and understanding strategies, because that's working with the part of the brain that cannot unblock this process and that cannot stop the compulsion. So that's for a different type of work, that part of the brain. So we're going to let those other therapists use that a lot and do their magic, but I'm going to help you talk about how to work with that part to get these compulsions stopped, to get your brain to stop this talking compulsion for you and get you free. And boy, are you going to feel free, because this talking compulsion and compulsions of all kinds are so they're like a prison that you can't get out of, and you can talk your way through. You're like, okay, I'm gonna, when I do this, I'm gonna do that, and then you're in talking, and you're in a conversation with somebody, and you're triggered, and then you're off on tangents, and you're dominating the conversation, and you can see yourself talking, and you can't stop talking. You're like, oh my gosh, this is not socially acceptable, and here I am talking, and or you're just like, gosh, can you let there be some silence, and here I am talking, right? And I want you to understand, this is not a choice you are making. This is your survival mode. That part of the brain doesn't ask you which survival strategy we're going to use. It just starts using it. It chooses one for us, and that's the one we use. If your brain has chosen talking as your survival strategy, this is not a choice. This is a compulsion. Your brain is compelling you to talk. Okay? And so I want you to understand that out the gate, this is brain malfunction. This is not and if it's accurate, great. If you're actually in danger and you need to talk your way out of this, this is the person to have on your team, okay? Because their survival system knows how to do this. It's usually not accurate, and the brain is misinterpreting danger signals everywhere and is shifting into survival mode and talking inaccurately. And so you're just going about your business, get triggered, and now you're talking. Maybe you're in classes. Maybe you've noticed you can't go to school in public because you will start talking and taking over the class, and your teacher can't get you to stop. This happens when you're in therapy sessions and your therapist can't get a word in edgewise. Right? This is when you're in a family situation or with your intimate partner and you talk them to sleep every night. Right? These are more extreme cases of this, and can really feel like a straitjacket because your brain is doing something you don't have a choice over, and it's only going to let you out when it feels safe enough to. And that could be days later, hours later, but you've missed the opportunity of engaging in that situation of your own free will and with your own skill set. And so that can be really, really frustrating. And then add on years of this, right? And then nobody knows what to do with this, and then people are avoiding you in the streets. They're avoiding your conversations. They're asking you not to come back. They're asking you not to, hey, we're not making progress in treatment, so I think you should find another therapist, right? So this can be really, really disheartening. And so we're going to talk about how to resolve that here in a second, but I want to cover some of the less extreme versions of this talking function. And this can be, I want to talk about the opposite real quick. You can tell that there's the opposite of this function is selective mutism, where you can't talk at all, right? That's also not a choice. But in this one, we're going to do the talking one. But I want you to see your partners everywhere are dealing with the same malfunctioning brain process, okay, or your counterparts. But this can be, you're meeting people at the playground and you're just yakking, or that can be like a fawning strategy where you're trying to people please, you're trying to be overly engaging, where there's silence in between, you can't quite tolerate it, you're starting to just fill the silence with a bunch of words. This happens in many reasons, and these are tells. These are tells. Hey, you're feeling a little anxious, or hey, you got triggered by something, or hey, you're not feeling safe in social situations. This is where we're responding to our brain. These are our clues and our tells that we're looking for, and these are opportunities to support our brain to go through the right pathway instead of staying in survival mode. We're gonna push it over here in regulation and processing. And we're so frustrated by our symptoms, but I really do want you to know our symptoms are our opportunity to correct the brain and create a lot of healing and transformation. So you get to have both the feeling of exasperation and frustration, and also the excitement of, okay, here's healing time. This is healing time. Okay. So let me run through the list of things, and then we'll talk about strategies to resolve this. We're going to notice different survival states, right? That engage talking, fight, arguing. You're going to watch this person just argue. Have you ever been you're with your partner or your friend, and you're arguing about something, but it's like excessive, like they just are going to argue you under the ground. They're going to argue. This is a talking compulsion frequently. Um, and these are the types of things I'm talking about. And if it's habitual, this is it. This is what you're looking at. Distracting self and others. This is happening a lot in therapy. This is happening a lot in relationships where intimacy is not safe, like different insecure attachment styles will feel that the more intimate we get, the more unsafe I am, which is automatically triggering talking mode. And so the next thing you know, you're just off and talking, you're filling the space, and you're reducing intimacy because intimacy is actually triggering. So that those are some of the spaces we're going to work on, helping your brain not be triggered by intimacy. And so that's a tell where your brain is malfunctioning right there in that intimacy spot. We need to get the brain to iron that out for us and relax and open that opportunity up. So everywhere you're using that talking strategy are the same places where you get to iron that brain function out, and it gets your brain to create your healthy intimacy strategies. So, but the distracting of the self, a distracting self is when we're afraid to feel the feelings. And so if I just keep talking, I'm not going to sink into that. If I just keep talking, I'm going to distract myself from the feelings. This is where we're intellectualizing. A lot of people that do this are on the higher IQ end, and so they really sound super duper smart when they're talking. This is a survival strategy. They could be smart without being compulsive. Okay, and we want them to. It's freedom in the non-compulsions. This is also where they'll just get hyperverbal, right? Just to distract the self from what's going on in the inner world. And we don't want to stop the talking. We want to make it safe to be in the inner world. And when it's safe to be in the inner world, the talking naturally stops. Okay, and we'll watch people start getting in the inner world, being more curious about themselves, not needing to distract when they're connecting with their emotions. So we don't just want to say, just go in there and feel. They can't. Their survival system actually won't let them. And so we're wasting our words. But what we could do is we could walk with you, or we could set up exercises, which is what I end up doing, setting up exercises, and I do this with people as well, where they have healthy, safe experiences in their inner world. And they're learning, oh, that's not that scary. I've been talking about this to avoid that. But this is also where they'll say, when we're looking at this stuff in the inner world that has been in there the whole time, they'll say, I'll do anything. And I've been willing to do anything besides feel that feeling. And it's usually pain. And that's what they'll say. And the brain heard them and was like, yeah, us too. That's really painful. And let's help with this talking strategy. Ooh, look, it works. If we talk, then we're not feeling the pain. We're not sinking in there. Keep it. Let's go. Let's make it better and better. And so now we've got an extreme response to that, whatever's in that inner world. So what I like to do there is really jump in there with people, show me what's so scary, and as we're desensitizing, we're walking the brain through the, hey, come out of survival mode. Let's be processing when we go in there. So we're holding that processing, and then we're going to explore, and there's a lot of pain that moves through the processor. So finally, this is a desensitization process where we're changing the pain, we're clearing the pain out of there so that we can explore more. And the next thing you know, that thing that they would have rather talked themselves and everyone else to death with is desensitized. It's no longer causing pain, and now the brain is actually using it for the creation of health and wellness, which is always the case. Whatever we get desensitized, the brain then jumps in and just starts using it for health and wellness. That stuff that's painful is the same stuff that the brain uses to create our health and wellness, just like it uses joy and happiness. But pain has that pain charge, and the survival system is designed to get away from pain. And so that stuff has a harder time getting processed. We're going to help with it, because once the survival system is getting away from it, that's where we found something that your system's not going to be able to process without support. Okay, so we really want to get enough support to get the survival system to allow that pain through the healing process, right? And so with that, we're providing that support. That pain has to get processed just like your joy and happiness does. That pain is very, very important for you. It is part of your team. It is part of your emotional wellness and your emotional intelligence. That pain processing is also part of your freedom, your liberty, your growth, your intimacy, your health, your healthy connections. It's VIP stuff, especially when your brain is trained to respond by getting away from it. We need to resolve that problem, and then we need to repattern and teach your mind body system, hey, this is one of your friends. You've been kicking them out, but you need to bring them in. You see all the good things they do? That happens over time. We want the brain to learn to let these things process. Okay. So also that people with this talking compulsion are also putting in a lot of verbal energy to distract others. Don't see me. And I don't want you to feel that. I don't want you to feel upset. So I'm going to talk, 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 talk around you. I don't want you to feel guilty. So I'm going to talk, talk, talk. I don't want you to feel, I don't want you to feel, I don't want you to feel. So I'm going to talk, 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 talk. And right. And sometimes people are conditioned in childhood. If I see you, I'm going to have to lose all my life and accommodate you. And so they're talking to not see you too, right? So that there's nothing being seen. Doesn't have anything to do with you. This has to do with childhood conditioning. And we need to resolve that. And we need to make it safe to connect with others. And there's boundaries in there. There's a lot of brain work in there. We don't need to get super specific with that. We just need to open the processor. Usually brains will fix most of it themselves. And then there's some other strategies where we want to get in there and guide the brain to do some work. Okay. One of the strategies of talking, the survival state, is just to wear people out, right? If you're asking me for accountability and I feel too triggered and I don't want to, I'm just going to talk, 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 talk at you until you give up and you don't talk to me about accountability taking. My goal with this talking strategy and survival strategy is to be the last person standing. And also, hopefully, it's terrible enough for you that you just, next time you think about coming and talk to me about being accountable, you just don't. Because you know you're going to have to go through this whole talkathon. Right? This is unconscious, and it makes it, everything that stays on the unconscious level is not on a healing path. So if this is an unconscious behavior, you can expect to keep seeing it. Once it becomes into the awareness level, which is why I'm making this video, now we're on the road to healing. This is not the healing spot. This is, now we have the opportunity to make some deep corrections in our unconscious, subconscious programming. And that's really, really important here because we need to resolve that there. Okay. Also, this is also used for soothing. Sometimes the sound of your own voice talking is very regulating to your nervous system. And that is actually pretty decent. I'm not interrupting that at all whatsoever. Because we want regulation, and this is actually not survival mode. This is actually a regulation thing. So I'm going to set that to the side. But it's hard when you have a compulsion and you use it to regulate all at the same time, right? You can see how confusing that would be. So now, a lot of EMDR therapy, a lot of my strategies, a lot of a healing strategies to get the mind-body system to work on this is to really go into the inner world and look at some things. However, with a talking compulsion, it's hard to get people to go into their inner world because they're actually terrified of it. Many people are terrified of their inner world and won't go in there. Lots of times I'll just have people, great, let's stop right there and regulate, regulate, regulate. Some people with the talking strategies won't even use an intervention. They will not stop and regulate their nervous system because they are so far triggered. And they don't look so far triggered or so highly triggered and highly distressed because they're talking. And they can even look very calm and they are in a full survival system state. If somebody's in a survival system state and they go into selective mutism, it's very easy to see, wow, they're really distressed. It's really easy to see, oh, we're not going to get any talking out of this. It's easy to see that talking is not going to be the healing strategy. It's less easy to see that with talkers because they're talking and then they're highly intelligent frequently, and then they're on an intellectualization path. This is not a healing brain process. And so their healing is offline, but they're going to talk it through, and their healing's not online, and then they're not going to get anywhere, and then they're going to need more words. It's going to be super complex. And so when people are super triggered, it's hard to get them to self-regulate. Um, and so it, when I work with my talkers, one of the things that I'm doing in the beginning with everybody is I'm matching interventions for them. Uh, Oftentimes, the all the interventions I teach in my free program, they work. However, to get them to do that intervention once they're carried off by a talking compulsion is entirely different. It is very, very difficult. So what I encourage them to do, and this works with has worked with 100% of my clients, is to use either passive approaches, passive interventions like tactile EMDR continuously throughout the day. Some of them can only tolerate about an hour, some 20 minutes, some of them can tolerate it all day long. And basically that's going to put their brain into that processing state everywhere they go, which is a wonderful, it's kind of a superficial approach, but they're getting so much processing support that the brain is able to really start resolving and healing many, many issues. And you don't necessarily get results right away because it's when we walk through our day, our brain is doing this and 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 doing this. And so we're getting a little bit of processing on all of those little things. And so this one takes a while, because typically what I'm doing in sessions is I'm getting somebody very close to the root issue, and we're putting focus on it, maybe 5 to 20 minutes of intervention use. And so we're going very deep and we're spending some time there to give the brain time to resolve that issue. When we're talking, and we're at the phase where we're not self-regulating well, we're using passive approaches, you're at a superficial level, you're not down in the very specifics because you can't really get in there yet. But your brain is moving from topic to topic to topic to topic. So we're really looking at lots of intervention use like this for a longer amount of time just to get through the first layer of work, which is repatterning the regulation that we get dysregulated, regulated, dysregulated, regulated, as opposed to just stay up here in talking land, dysregulation, and for talking compulsion, it's talking land. And so, and getting more dysregulated and more dysregulated. And you get more dysregulated as you watch the people watch you, and they're like, and then you're like, and you can't stop talking because you're in a compulsion. Okay. So it's very dysregulating. And so this pattern really is helpful. And then they're usually able to move quickly in relation to their whole life, because this probably takes about a month or two, depending on how diligent they will be in using their device, their alternating bilateral stimulation device, or audio EMDR music. A lot of my talking clients and lots of my clients use auditory bilateral stimulation. These are not ones that I teach in my program. However, I have done a video on this in my Facebook group called Releasing the Baggage of Anxiety, Depression, and Traumatic Stress. And I talk about the pitfalls. With EMDR use, there are some massive gnarly side effects. I don't find my clients having gnarly side effects when they're using it throughout their day. But I'm like, if you're stopping and staring and just doing nothing, take that off, because that's really, I don't know that you're skilled enough and ready for that. And so we're going to avoid that space. But if you're doing something, absolutely. Just because there's not enough focus energy for the brain to go and say, oh, let's go see what we can heal, and go get you in trouble, because you're actually not ready to go in there and see what you can heal, which is why people don't go straight into EMDR, because we don't know if they can actually handle that. So I have a video on that. I think it's called The Truth About EMDR. Anyway, you can go to YouTube and put in my channel and search for EMDR, and there's some videos there, and I talk about the caveats to that and the problems there so that you can avoid them. Because if it's not the right intervention for you, don't do it. There's so many other beautiful ones. But the EMDR music and the tactile alternating bilateral stimulation devices are really, really helpful for talking compulsions, especially because their own awareness of how dysregulated they are is low. They really do not know that they're dysregulated, and that's why they're talking. And that's one of the challenges with compulsions, is that you're stuck in them, but you think they're real. right? And so that's the number one indicator whether somebody will heal or not, is if they can realize, whoa, I think this is a problem. I have to do it, but I think it's a problem. That's a healing spot. And now we're moving along the process. But I don't want my talking compulsion clients thinking about this stuff too much, because their thinker is disordered. So the more we think, the more disordered we're going to be. So I just like, do your regular life, put your buzzies on, do your regular life, put your EMDR music on. They're going to learn a ton. They're going to learn about their disorder. They're going to learn about their own dysregulation, and they're going to come back eventually. And this happens quicker than 1 to 2 months, and say, I'm really dysregulated. I know, right? Now they're starting to have awareness of what's going on in their inner world. And they might say, and you know what? While I'm talking, I notice that my chest is really tight. Okay, mind body connection is starting here. Excellent. And now they're learning to start gauging things. They're reading the signposts in their inner world that says what this is. Or it's like being in the cockpit of your little plane and the lights are flashing. And now it's like, you know what they mean. It's like, my chest is tight and I'm talking. I must be dysregulated. I'm in a survival state. Let me use my intervention. Exactly. And then we're building from there. That is really the place we want to get to. And now you're on the plane with everybody else, people that are very aware of their symptoms. And now healing can happen super fast from here. So what I'm hoping this does is, if you're a practitioner, that this gives you some ideas to get your client through the talking compulsion phase, so that they can get some serious healing work done. If you're somebody who has this, that you have some hope, get yourself one of these devices, make sure it works. Find your EMDR music that you like. I have one that I love. It's in my program. I think I teach this strategy in my program, Inner World Transformation, which is the next step after the interventions, just because it's a little bit more. And that's where I share my favorite EMDR music. But you can go into YouTube, find EMDR, and figure it out. But there are some that will make you want to throw up. I've had clients that just go out and find their own, and they're like, I got dizzy and threw up. And I'm like, I kind of want to hear the song so I can see what is it. But I don't want to be dizzy or throw up, so I kind of don't want to put my nervous system to that. So, but listen to yourself. If your body doesn't like it, it's not for you. We want something, my EMDR music, I'll put it on and I'll just almost instantly, and it still blows my mind. I'm like, you like that? My body's like, just put it on, put the music on. So whatever. Let me see if there's anything else in here. So it also, if you're a therapist and you're feeling frustrated, you're feeling exasperated because you can't get a word in edgewise, you could be looking right at a talking compulsion, and it's going to be important that you help them resolve this. This is a prison that you're looking for, and you do have the skills. Also, this one is one I interrupt a lot. I am not an interrupter. Okay, that's an overstatement. I do a bit of interrupting in therapy, but this one you have to go into hyper mode because they're not choosing it, and so you have to really get in there and like, okay, let me get in here for a second, or let me and redirect. There's a lot of redirecting. And but the more that they use the interventions between sessions, the less you have to do that, and the more they can start taking over, staying on the healing path, not going down the tangent, and really being more linear in conversations and being more functional in conversations. All of those things are needed for them to do well in life. And so, and this can happen very, very quickly. So many people with talking compulsions in therapy really also, this one is where it's on and off. And that's really when people are doing it a little bit more to protect themselves because they're not ready to be seen. I don't hijack that, because their self does need protection for a while. And if we can resolve the issues of why their self feels that they need more protection, all of a sudden the self will start coming out more in the session, and they'll be more receptive and listening, and they'll be able to take the risk of being seen. And so I don't push that, because that's a very sacred space, and The brain will tell us when the time is right because it starts initiating, it starts asserting the self in sessions. So definitely be careful with this. But if you're in the first stages and there's low awareness of the compulsion, and when you're interrupting, it dysregulates the brain further. Like angry, lashing out, snapping, all that stuff can happen when you're interrupting a compulsion. Just like if you're interrupting a hand washing compulsion, the desperate need to do that is the brain is going to also attack anybody who stops them or prevents them from washing their hands. Same thing with talking. That's when it's just time to put the buzzies on, do the EMDR music, and let people talk from left coast to right coast and back and forth and back and forth. It's like you're letting them do laps with processing. You're letting them do laps. Now, this is a hard thing to do session after session after session, which is why we want to empower people to do this processing outside of sessions. So that's why I'm having this video and saying, hey, why don't you try some EMDR music? Hey, why don't you try some bilateral stimulation devices? That can really set you up to really utilize therapy really, really well. So that's what I wanted to say about this, and happy healing. You're not alone. This is a real thing. I was just talking to somebody recently about this in the early stages of their healing work, and it happens. It happens more than we talk about. Anyway, wonderful connecting with you. I really encourage you to try some of these interventions. Definitely try my three favorite interventions for this in my program, Interventions for Inner World Transformation. And then when you find an intervention that works for you, and you're really ready to go deeper and work on more layers intentionally and strategically, then my program, Inner World Transformation, is going to be a really great fit. And so wonderful connecting with you. Like this video, share, follow me, subscribe on YouTube, follow me on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube. I don't know what you say for Instagram, but you can do that too. And I will see you later. Take care. Bye.